Did you know that I Got You Babe skyrocketed to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, becoming one of the most iconic pop rock hits of the mid-60s? For many, the hurdles they face in life can be too much to bear, leading them to quit and never try again. But for Cher, it was a different story. Though she's known as the queen of pop today, Cher's journey has been one of heartbreak, tragedy, and unimaginable pain. Yet, despite everything, she defied the odds and transformed her life into a global sensation. Sherilyn Sarkisian was born on May 20, 1946, in El Centro, California. Her mother, Georgia Holt, a former model and retired actress, had a mix of Irish, English, German, and Cherokee ancestry. Her father, John Sarkisian, an Armenian-American truck driver, struggled with addiction to both drugs and gambling. From the very start, Cher's life was tangled in a web of complex relationships, all stemming from her parents' rocky marriage. Their passionate relationship ignited when teenage Georgia met the charismatic John while working in a donut shop in Fresno. They eloped to Reno, Nevada, but soon realized that their relationship wasn't meant to last. Georgia tried to leave, but John persuaded her to give it another chance. In a 1978 interview with People magazine, Georgia recalled, "I left him the day after the wedding. I knew I didn't want to be married, but he told me to try it for 3 months, and if I didn't like it, I could walk out." Despite this, George's pregnancy with Cher kept him together, tying them to a life that was about to change everything. In 1995, Georgia revealed a heartbreaking truth. When she found out she was pregnant, she had to make an agonizing decision: abort the baby or risk being cut off from her family. With her future on the line, Georgia decided to keep her child. That decision, painful as it was, would forever alter the course of history. Unfortunately, the birth of Cher wasn't enough to save the marriage, and the couple parted ways when Cher was just 10 months old. This left Cher with a strained relationship with her father, further complicated by his addictions. However, despite the fractured bond, Cher held onto her Armenian heritage, a gift passed down from her father. Georgia married several times, including a third marriage to actor John Southall, but the relationship was volatile. Time Cher was 9, this marriage had ended in divorce after years of conflict. Despite the chaos, Georgia's repeated marriages and turbulent relationships shaped Cher's life in ways that would influence her future. Georgia's unstable life and ongoing financial struggles, Cher's childhood was anything but easy. Despite Georgia's attempts at a career in acting and singing, the family often lived on the edge of poverty. At one point, Georgia's financial situation became so dire that she had to place Cher in a Catholic orphanage. Nuns suggested adoption, but Georgia never let go of her daughter, choosing instead to push forward, despite the odds. Cher remembers moments of hardship, like when they could barely afford to eat, surviving on cans of stew or beans. Yet there were also moments when the family briefly tasted luxury, living in Beverly Hills, a world far removed from the usual struggles. Though the fluctuation in her early life must have been confusing at the time, it ultimately gave Cher some much-needed respite. The constant ebb and flow of her upbringing made her incredibly resilient in the face of ongoing challenges, economic, emotional, and personal. These struggles would become the bedrock for her success in the entertainment world. Despite her natural beauty and undeniable creativity, her high school years left her feeling like an outsider. Though she was undoubtedly bright, Cher's grades never quite reflected her intelligence. From a young age, she was single-minded in her goal of becoming a star, and perhaps that focus played a part in her disinterest in academics. In her biography, Cher, If You Believe, she openly discussed her disdain for school. Cher admitted that she never quite felt at home with her peers, which fueled her dislike for school. She often found herself daydreaming about what life would be like when she was grown up, imagining the fame she would one day achieve, the glamorous clothes she'd wear, and the extraordinary people she'd surround herself with. It's easy to understand why high school wasn't a priority for her. Beyond her aspirations to be a movie star, Cher also faced personal obstacles that further hindered her academic performance. She struggled with both dyslexia and dyscalculia, challenges that were poorly understood at the time. Her school years were marked by difficulty reading and processing numbers, which only compounded her frustration. In an interview, she candidly recalled, "I never read in school. I got really bad grades, D's and F's, C's in some classes, and A's and B's in others." Her report cards often noted that she wasn't living up to her potential. This comment likely reflected the fact that, in those days, dyslexia wasn't widely recognized, and students with it were simply thought to be lazy or unmotivated. By the time she was 16, Cher had reached a breaking point. The weight of academic struggles became unbearable, and she made a bold decision to leave school in the 11th grade. Would this risky move propel her toward greatness, or would she regret her choice? For Cher, there was only one way to find out, and it wasn't within the confining walls of a classroom. Soon after dropping out, Cher left her mother's home and set her sights on Los Angeles, the city of dreams. There, she worked in small clubs along the Sunset Strip, dancing to make ends meet while taking acting lessons. She was determined to find the right people who could give her the big break she so desperately wanted. Perseverance paid off in November 1962 when she crossed paths with Sonny Bono, a 27-year-old songwriter and record promoter. At the time, Cher was only 16, working as a backup singer, and Sonny was working for legendary producer Phil Spector. Cher and Sonny struck a deal. She would become his live-in housekeeper in exchange for career guidance. What started as a professional relationship soon turned into something more, as the two became romantically involved. Sonny introduced Cher to Phil Spector, who would go on to use her as a backup singer on tracks like The Ronettes' Be My Baby and the Righteous Brothers' You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin'. Spector helped produce Cher's first single, Ringo, I Love You, a song dedicated to Beatles drummer Ringo Starr. Unfortunately, her voice, recorded under the name Bonnie Jo Mason, led to complications. Radio stations rejected the song, assuming it was sung by a man, more specifically, a man in love with Ringo Starr. Despite the rocky start, Cher's relationship with Sonny blossomed, both personally and professionally. By 1965, the duo, known as Sonny and Amp, Cher, was gaining international recognition with their hit I Got You Babe song, with its message of love and unwavering support, quickly became an anthem of the era. Got You Babe catapulted Sonny and Amp, Cher to fame, but they didn't stop there. Their follow-up hit, The Beat Goes On, solidified their place in music history. Another popular tune, Baby Don't Go, further cemented their status as one of the most beloved musical duos of the 1960s. With their musical success, Cher and Sonny were eager to expand into the world of film. In 1967, they starred in the comedy Good Times, a film that fictionalized their own lives. However, the movie received poor reviews, with critics calling it a collection of disjointed and mediocre sketches. Despite the flop, Cher and Sonny refused to let this setback derail their careers. Instead, they chose to take another risk, investing a large portion of their finances into a film project titled Chastity, hoping to revive their fortunes. The movie Chastity marked a drastic departure from Sonny and Cher's usual comedic style, opting for a much more intense and dramatic tone. However, critics soon dismissed it as a disjointed and directionless project with little to no plot. The result was a massive failure, pushing the duo into severe financial difficulties. Their dream of making a mark in Hollywood had come at a great cost. With $500,000 spent on the film and their home mortgage to the hilt, they found themselves on the brink of financial ruin. As they struggled to keep afloat, little did they know that even more obstacles lay ahead. The late 1960s and early 1970s ushered in a new wave of musical innovation. Gone were the days when pop and folk music ruled the chart. A shift in the musical landscape left Sonny and Cher grappling with a fading popularity, forcing them to adjust or risk fading into obscurity. The rise of psychedelic rock, hard rock, and other cutting-edge genres meant that the music world was evolving, and Sonny and Cher were left behind, facing even greater financial troubles. Despite these challenges, the duo refused to give up. Instead, they reinvented themselves, transitioning from pop singers into a new, live performance act. Their resilience paid off as their new act found success, marking the beginning of a fresh chapter in their careers. A major turning point came when they ventured into television with the launch of the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. The variety show was a hit, mixing comedy with musical performances in a way that captivated audiences. It was a testament to their ability to adapt to changing times and secure their relevance in the entertainment industry. Airing from 1971 to 1974, the show garnered a loyal fanbase, and for a time, it seemed like nothing could stop Sonny and Cher. However, just 1 year after the show's debut, the cracks in their personal relationship began to show. Both Sonny and Cher had begun engaging in extramarital affairs, and Sonny's persistent womanizing began to take its toll. The strain was evident, but despite their personal struggles, they chose to stay together, for the sake of their business and their family. Cher overcome the turmoil in her marriage and continue to chase the career she dreamed of, or would the weight of their relationship issues stifle her ambition? As the early 1960s had seen Cher and Sonny at the peak of their musical popularity, the tides had turned with the rise of the sexual revolution and a growing anti-establishment sentiment. A monogamous relationship and their anti-drug stance made them increasingly out of step with the youth culture, who embraced a more liberated lifestyle. As a result, their popularity began to dwindle, and by the late 1960s, Sonny had fully embraced the era's changing attitudes, dating other women and growing distant from Cher. Despite the emotional rift between them, Sonny desperately tried to win Cher back, even professing his desire to marry and start a family. The couple, who had originally exchanged vows in a private ceremony in Tijuana on October 27, 1964, officially tied the knot on March 4, 1969, and soon welcomed their child, Chaz Bono, into the world. In 1971, CBS' Fred Silverman saw the potential in Sonny and Cher after they guest hosted The Merv Griffin Show, offered them a chance to host their own program, and on August 1, 1971, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour premiered as a summer replacement series. Though it initially aired as a 6-episode series, the show's tremendous success led to its return later that year as a full-time program. The show quickly became a cultural phenomenon, attracting over 30 million viewers each week. Cher's comedic timing, especially her sharp, deadpan remarks about Sonny's appearance, became one of the most beloved aspects of the show. Cher and Sonny had created the perfect blend of humor and warmth that resonated deeply with audiences. Fans were even more captivated when a young Chaz Bono made special appearances on the show, further solidifying the Bono family as an idealized, happy unit. As Cher's acting skills continued to shine, it became clear that her earlier acting lessons were paying off. She had truly mastered the art of captivating an audience, both on stage and screen. Cher brought her unparalleled skills to life on the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, playing a range of hilarious characters, including the brash housewife Laverne, the sarcastic waitress Rosa, and even historical figures like Cleopatra and Miss Sadie Thompson. Wardrobe for the show, designed by Bob Mackie, became iconic, leaving audiences just as excited to see what Cher would wear as they were to watch the sketches themselves. Cher had transformed into a fashion icon, influencing trends across the 1970s, with her style becoming almost as celebrated as her performances. In 1971, Cher and Sonny signed with the Cap Records division of MCA Records, marking a new chapter in Cher's career. It was here that Cher recorded Classified 1A, a song written by Sonny from the perspective of a soldier dying in Vietnam. The track was heavy with emotional depth, aiming to evoke a sense of sorrow that would linger with listeners. However, radio stations rejected it, deeming it too somber and uncommercial for airplay. Despite the setback, Sonny's vision for Cher's solo career was clear, but it was time for a change. Enter Snuff Garrett, the seasoned producer who would prove to be the perfect match for Cher's voice. Under his guidance, Cher recorded Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, a song that not only revived her career but made history. The track soared to #1 on both the US Billboard Hot 100 and the Canadian Singles Chart, making Cher the first solo artist to achieve such a feat. Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves would go on to be recognized as one of the greatest songs of the 20th century, with Billboard celebrating it as a monumental hit. However, despite her newfound success, it became clear that Garrett understood Cher's voice and persona far better than Sonny did, as noted by Bego. The song became part of Cher's 1971 album, which was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America, RIA. Album's second single, The Way of Love, also made waves, reaching #7 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and solidifying Cher's place as the recording artist she had always dreamed of becoming. Cher's vocal growth was undeniable, especially with the release of her 1972 album Foxy Lady, which showcased her blossoming abilities as a ballad singer. Yet, her newfound success wouldn't last long. Following the album's release, Snuff Garrett left as her producer after a fallout with Sonny over the direction Cher's music should take. Despite the creative tension, in 1973, Cher agreed to record an album of standards, Bittersweet White Light, as Sonny pushed for a more traditional style. Fortunately, the album failed to resonate with audiences, proving that the formula wasn't quite right. Just when it seemed like her musical path had hit a dead end, lyricist Mary Dean presented Snuff Garrett with a song about a young woman of Cherokee and white descent, tailor-made for Cher. Despite having parted ways with Garrett, he knew this was a song Cher could truly bring to life. He held onto it, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal it to her. The song was Half-Breed, and when it was released, it became an instant hit, marking Cher's third US #1 single. Both the single and the album of the same name was certified gold by the RIAA, reaffirming Cher's place at the top of the charts. In 1974, Cher continued her successful streak with Dark Lady, the lead single from her album Namesake. Cher had become an unstoppable force, and her star was shining brighter than ever. Cher's next hit, Dark Lady, would prove to be yet another success, landing at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and marking her fourth #1 single. In a few short years, Cher had completely dominated the charts, becoming the female artist with the most #1 singles in US history at that time. For Cher, this moment was the culmination of the dreams she'd once had while sitting in class, yearning for a life that was anything but ordinary. Now, her dreams were materializing, proving that her determination and vision had paid off. To cement her place in music history, Cher released a greatest hits album, a move that further solidified her as one of the most consistent hitmakers of the past 5 years. Billboard would go on to praise her as a proven superstar who never failed to sell records. Between 1971 and 1973, Cher had revived her career with 4 successful albums under Cap Records and MCA Records, showing just how far she'd come since the days of struggling to find her voice in the music industry. But not everything in Cher's personal life was as polished as her professional success. Marriage to Sonny had already ended long before the public became aware of their trouble. Behind the scenes, the couple had quietly endured marital issues since late 1972, holding onto their public image until 1974. The decision to maintain appearances ultimately crumbled under the weight of their relationship struggles. In February 1974, Sonny filed for separation, citing irreconcilable differences. Just a week later, Cher countered with her own divorce filing, accusing Sonny of involuntary servitude, alleging that he had withheld money from her and deprived her of her rightful share of their earnings. The legal battle over finances and custody of their child, Bono, would drag on for over a year. Finally, on June 26, 1975, their divorce was finalized, with Cher granted full custody of their son. Despite the personal turmoil, Cher's career continued to flourish. That same year, Cher won a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a television series, musical or comedy for her work on the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. Meanwhile, Sonny tried to keep his career afloat with the launch of the Sonny Comedy Review on ABC. Unfortunately, despite his efforts and the same creative team behind the previous show, Sonny's solo venture only lasted 3 months before being cancelled. Following her divorce from Sonny, Cher, who had been in a 2-year romantic relationship with record executive David Geffen, signed a lucrative $2 million deal with Warner Bros. Records. Cher's first album under the label, Stars, 1975, was a significant departure from her previous work, embracing rock music. Although she immersed herself in research, studying other rock stars to ensure her success, Stars was a commercial failure. However, over time, the album has gained recognition as one of Cher's best works, standing out as a bold and experimental piece in her discography. In 1975, Cher returned to television with a solo show on CBS, simply titled Cher. This show marked a fresh start for her, as it introduced her as a solo artist and reintroduced her to audiences after the end of the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. The show featured special guests like Elton John and Bette Midler and focused on Cher's music, comedy, and fashion. Despite being initially met with mixed expectations, Cher turned out to be a great success, capturing the hearts of viewers and showcasing her versatility as a performer. Sonny without Cher, as the Los Angeles Times reported, was a disaster, but Cher without Sonny was proving to be a revolutionary force in television. Despite her continued success and growth as a solo artist and performer, Cher found herself reconnecting with her past. Less than a year after the debut of her solo show, Cher partnered professionally with her ex-husband, Sonny Bono, in a new project. However, the dynamics had shifted, and Cher, now a single woman, felt more like a threat to the status quo than she ever had while married to Sonny. Her personal life, too, was a whirlwind. Just 4 days after her divorce from Sonny, Cher remarried rock musician Greg Allman. The relationship quickly unraveled. Less than a week later, Cher filed for divorce due to Greg's struggles with heroin and alcohol. At the time, Allman was reportedly so intoxicated that he didn't realize she had filed for divorce. Yet, he later asked for forgiveness, promising to turn his life around if Cher would give him another chance. The two reconciled, and on July 19, 1976, they welcomed a son together, Elijah Blue. Despite the ups and downs of her personal life, Cher's career faced its own challenges. The revived Sonny and Cher show, despite being successful in the past, was met with public backlash and was cancelled in 1977. Cher's popularity waned, and album sales faltered, prompting her to take a break from music and focus on acting. Her transition into film proved to be a bit rocky initially, but 1985 marked a turning point with the release of Mask, a movie in which she portrayed a drug addict mother to a teenage son with a severe facial deformity. The film became a box office hit and earned Cher the prestigious Cannes Film Festival Award for Best Actress. The success of Mask helped her transition back into the limelight, and in 1987, Cher signed with Geffen Records, setting the stage for her return to music. Her single, I Found Someone, became her first US top 10 hit in over 8 years, marking the beginning of a new phase in her musical career. By the end of the 1980s, Cher had become not only a force in music but also a symbol of defiance and individuality. Known for her bold style, multiple plastic surgeries, tattoos, and relationships with younger men, Cher's lifestyle was ahead of its time. While many criticized her choices, Cher remained unapologetically herself. The death of Sonny Bono in 1998 deeply affected Cher, and she returned home to grieve his passing. Cher had once described him as the most unforgettable person she'd ever known. Over the years, Cher would face personal challenges, retiring from music in 2005 after a final press tour. However, in 2008, she returned to the music scene, much to the delight of her fans. In December 2023, Cher released her first Christmas album, proving that she still had much to give to the world of entertainment. Her career remains far from over, and fans are eager to see what else Cher has in store for the future.